Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Channel Your Light, Own Your Intuitive with myself, Erin Chandler. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for all of you returning and new viewers as well. I so appreciate all of your comments. If you want to be notified when new videos come out, please make sure you hit the notification bell in your settings on the channel subscription. And I'm just going to dive right in. There's a number of different messages, and I kind of want to separate them for clarity, of course. But I was told there's something about mental clarity happening for a lot of people right now. And there's an unknown timeline. That was the predominant message. So many of us are shifting into, we're just going to go there because Dolores has a lot to say about this, Miss Dolores Cannon. She says that in the observation and in the depiction of old Earth versus new Earth, and shifting onto a new Earth also involves shifting into timelines. She says she wants to go back to the words or descriptive purposes of where she had mentioned that this had never been done before. This had never been done before in this particular universe or galaxy in terms of a planet having a living shift without death and decay being the predominant reason or requirement for the actual birthing of the new earth or the rebirth or the shifting into it. So we're tagging onto a lot of different things here. I'm just realizing that this goes in alignment with another channel that I did, and Dolores is like, they're all woven together. So for the person where you're trying to make a decision, there's a lack of mental clarity. Perhaps you're looking for signs or guideposts as to what the next 5 steps are. Whomever this is, because you've shifted into this new earth energy, so new earth is birthed within you, 5th dimensional consciousness. What's the first 5 dimensions? They're intended to help you to understand the true you, who you are, what you are, why you are. That's the purpose of the first 5 dimensions. And then we begin to dip into the 6 through the 12 other dimensions. And of course, in Vedic, there's 64 dimensions. In Hinduism, there's an infinite amount of possibilities, given that there's multiple universes, all those exciting, infinite things. But I want to just focus here on this piece of the unknown timelines because it's directly impacted and in flow with the shift between new earth and the old earth, making that shift for those of you who have already made that shift, for those of you who are in transition right now or in a holding pot where you're like, I need to be doing something, but I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to be doing. So you're just kind of like in this no man's land or in between worlds. For those of you who are not sure what your next step is, you're having a lot of, I'm hearing mental confusion as to what your next step needs to be. Because we have shifted into the new earth, says Dolores, because we are in the midst of a shift, because things are changing so rapidly, because before in the old earth, all of you were doing all your work and evolving yourself and examining your thoughts and your beliefs, healing different wounds, separating yourself from the pack. I'm hearing separating yourself from the pack as the leader of the pack. Vroom, vroom. What's that from? Leader of the pack. I'm hearing that's synonymous with the idea of 5th dimension is you leading yourself. So one of the common examples that I give a lot is the story of footprints in the sand, where Jesus says, here, I'm going to carry you. And we as individuals say, hey, this was my darkest time. And why didn't you carry me? Why is there only one set of footprints? Why did you desert me? And Jesus steps in, or the cosmic creator steps in and says, no, it was me who was carrying you. That's why you only see one set of footprints. So that's synonymous with the 3rd dimension. And the word synonymous keeps coming out big time. So maybe that's a word that you use frequently. Maybe it's something that you really attune to. Maybe it's a new word that you learned. I don't really know, but I'm being told synonymous has been spoken 3 times for a very specific confirmation and validation for one of the viewers on here. So take what resonates and leave what doesn't. You will ping, that will ping for you. You will know that is yours. So back to the example of Jesus and carrying the individual when they were at their darkest times. Oftentimes when we look at 3rd dimension, it's about finding your personal power and who you are. That's the purpose of the mirrors. That's the purpose of the experiences. And of course, there's multiple purposes. This is just a main feature or thematic one that we could identify with. So Jesus is carrying you in the 3rd dimension. Jesus is in front of you, holding your hand, and you're following Jesus. In fifth dimensional consciousness, or I am presence and power, you and Jesus end up being side by side, holding hands there. It's a co-creative, beautiful state because you understand your power as a creator. When we begin to dip into the sixth dimension, the visual or the metaphor of this then switches into you being slightly one step ahead of Jesus, still holding Jesus's hand, who's right there. And Jesus is saying, you create what you want to create. You're in control now. You have a say. And that's, you've always had a say, but this is part of the process for a lot of people. You are now stepping into a creator mode where you're actively utilizing your intentions, your thoughts, your I am presence and power to be able to move forwards and actually create the world you want to create. In this sense of the metaphor, Jesus is now behind you saying, yes, if that's going to bring you joy, or if that's going to serve your higher self or your soul yearns to do that, you create that. You don't need Jesus to tell you it's okay to create that. Your soul's in a position and a higher evolution or dimensional perspective that you're able to make conscious choices that are not only for the greatest good of you, but ultimately end up being for the greatest good of the collective consciousness, because it's for the greatest good of you. So in this way, Jesus is standing behind you saying, I'm right here. If you take a step and create something that you don't like, or if you fall, I will catch you. If you fall, I will catch you. That's the song playing. Anyways, so it's almost like this dynamic of third dimension is Jesus is leading you because you're still learning who you are. In fifth dimension, it's like a co-creative state. Yeah, Jesus is my man, fist bump. I don't know who that's for, but fist bump, Jesus is my man. And we're rocking and rolling. We're co-creating. He's leading, I'm guiding. Sometimes I'm asking and they're responding. It's this beautiful co-creative state of you and the divine operating as one with this beautiful reciprocity and fluidity of energy, living life in the present moment, and also actively, intentionally creating in those moments. Sixth dimension is where we're actually no longer needing the confirmation or validation of creator, Jesus, source, or spirit, tell me which way to go. We no longer need to ask those questions. It's my soul yearns for this. I'm in my personal power. I understand that as my soul yearns for this, it is a divine connection in and of itself. I now begin to understand the world around me in sixth dimension because I understand myself. And through the first five dimensions and that process, now that I understand myself, and I now understand other people, I can begin to utilize the third dimension outside of me, the external, to begin to move and shape and shift things, to organize them to benefit me and the collective by building the life I wish to build. So I think I'm going to pull a card here just to get some more clarity on the mental clarity. It's almost like whoever this is, you're used to having clarity or being very sound of mind. And this is a very masculine energy. You're used to being very clear on what you want to do, why you want to do it, why you feel a certain way. And you're very logical, whoever that message is for. And I feel like mental clarity, fruit wine, your mental clarity and the unknown timelines. There's a lot going on here. And Dolores wants to touch on this because it is touching into the six dimensional aspects of full leadership of you, but there's something here that there's an unknown timeline. So fruit wine is the card that I have pulled for you. The fruit wine is also card number 10 en français, mes amis, en français. So 10, perhaps you're French, I'm not sure who that's for, but 10 is a state of completion, and it also represents endings, celebrating that ending. But you're also, whoever this is, you're in a state of a new beginning, and there's an unknown timeline. So you're hesitating, you don't have clarity on where it needs to go. Perhaps you're not clear on what the outcome is, or what the motivation, or what's going to happen. It's almost like you're not sure what to do and you don't have mental clarity. Therefore, you're not taking a step and you're having hesitation. This is also a message for somebody who feels like they're in a holding pattern where you're like, I need to do something, but I don't know what I need to do. Dual messages. I'm hearing that is divinely designed. This holding pattern right now, the reason why fruit wine is so important, what happens with fruit? We have to wait for fruit to harvest because there is a completion or an ending. Savor the moment is what I'm hearing. Savor the completion of the ending. Celebrate the harvest. Celebrate the fruit. Celebrate where you have been, what you have done, and just be in that moment. There are times in life where there is a time for action. There's a time for pondering. There's a time for reflection. There's a time for stasis as well, as what I'm hearing. This word also keeps coming up, stasis. There's a time for stasis because in stasis, there's actually a lot happening, but it's really underneath the surface, underneath it all when we have that stasis moment. This celebration, it says on the card, let me just read it. This is a celebratory invitation to the possibilities gifted when you reach beyond yourself. This is so important because when you sit in the celebration mode and don't need to know where you're going or what you're doing, not needing to plan it out logically, because there's an unknown timeline happening here. Your logic isn't going to be able to piece or point this together because it's an unknown timeline. And Dolores says it's kind of like the old earth and the new earth because this has never been done before, this type of a shift while we're still embodied in the body. Usually, think about it, on the 3D earth plane, most of us our physical body dies and our spirit goes home. And it's like, oh my gosh, I see all that now. Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I forgive that person? Man, I was so afraid to take that action. We have all these things that we go through after we leave the body, because don't forget, it is not the body that holds the spirit, it's the spirit that holds the body. Think about, how does the body even operate? It requires the spirit, the divine, to even be able to be created, to even operate. Therefore, the spirit is holding the body. And when the spirit is done with it in that incarnation, we release the body. We go home and we suddenly, oh, I remember everything now. What's happening that's never been done before, according to Dolores, who keeps popping in here. She says she wants to speak. Whoever she is wanting to speak through for this, perhaps you listened to Dolores, perhaps you read her books. I have not. However, I always openly welcome her energy because I feel that she has so much to share. And she shared so much on this earth plane that really allowed a lot of people to open into their true nature, expand consciousness. And her work was groundbreaking for a lot of people here in the collective consciousness. So although I've never read her work, I openly and gratefully and humbly accept her divine guidance. She is saying this because this has never been done before. The only way to logically explain these shifts for a lot of people is to explain it as an old earth and a new earth, third dimension and fifth dimension. She says, but at times, this is a rebirth within the self because all of you are part of consciousness, and there is nothing that can exist outside of us without the mind to logically be able to ascertain or be able to take steps forward. Because this has never been done before, this creates a lot of unknown timelines. Whereas previously, all of you were taking actions because there was very clear timelines. Many of you may have noticed there has been a sudden shift for you in terms of what you thought you were here for, but what you're actually doing at this point in time, or what you're called to be doing. Many of you will notice you're at an ending point, wanting to end things, sifting away that which doesn't serve you, things you have outgrown. This is because you are preparing or sitting in the holding pot, the honey pot, as I like to call it, the sweetness of life, where you get to open to the infinite possibilities of potential timelines you can step into. So I have two different messages here. Dolores has focused on this specific one. If you're sitting in a holding pattern wondering, like, I don't know what to do next, just be, because you're opening to the possibilities of the potential timelines. And in addition, Dolores says we're rearranging a couple of things ahead of you, or that's meant to be aligned with you, to make it for, this is how divine timing comes into play, or an understanding of divine timing. You're sitting here in this honeypot, not really sure what you need to do, waiting on something, taking a step forwards, but not really being clear on the outcome or what the actual goal is. There's also divine timing at play. Divine timing is when the divine has aligned for you the different things with the goal you've set, or actually your purpose or mission that you're going towards, which you have been preparing for up until this point. So divine timing is when all these things are lined up. We look at the divine as, oh, I'm waiting on divine timing, linear time, but That's not the same as the divine. So, and I don't know why somebody needed to hear it like that. I trust that it's coming through. Take what resonates and leave what doesn't. For somebody on here, this was simply a validation of your understanding. Dolores says, of your vast understanding of putting it in linear, structural, logical, tangible things of something you may have perceived in another way. She just says, take it as validation. That's what she's saying. So that's the one subset of souls that she wishes to speak to. There's another subset of souls where you are actually stepping onto an unknown timeline. You have teams and guides around you because of this. We do not know what your next steps are going to be until you take this step right here. You're hesitating on taking other steps because there are so many unknowns, or there's a discomfort for you in something you normally have comfort in. And this is important because the timeline is actually unknown. If this has never been done before in this particular universe with planet Earth, shifting from one state of being to another without having to physically decay and die, but actually rebirthing in the shift while maintaining the physical body, as Pleiadians would say, having a spiritual death in order to be rebirthed or reborn while being maintained in the body. In this way, it not being done before, so many souls doing it at once. There are a lot of unknowns that are happening right now. There are teams of light being set up all around you. You all have loved ones crossed over. They're all surrounding you. And they're saying, as for somebody on here, it's almost like your guides aren't giving you an answer. And they're saying, there's a chorus here, we're not giving you an answer because there is not yet an answer to give. We have asked you to take these few steps. Please trust that you can take the few steps, because as soon as you do, suddenly the other timelines become obvious. But we cannot guide you in a trajectory to these other timelines unless you take these first few steps in order to have the next thing unfold and the next thing unfold and the next thing unfold. So for somebody on here, I guess it's almost like you move with the intuitive really, really well. It's not a thing for you. You trust your intuition, you trust your logic, but right now there's an unknown timeline that you're hesitating on, and perhaps that's not your normal response to things. It's because there are unknowns at play. If we're having a massive shift in awakening, a revolution here on the earth plane, it's a revolution of you, but that happens through your own internal evolution. Dolores says as well, there's a cosmic evolution that's happening right now, or cosmic shifts that are pulling us along. Old earth kind of era, or in the past, we've been doing all this work. To go back to the original message before, we've been doing all this work, working on ourselves, healing our wounds, expanding into consciousness, learning all these new things, questioning things that we've been taught or told. I have itchy shoulders. I'm not sure who that is on here, but I feel the need to brush my shoulders off. Dolores says this is important because that's a message for somebody who carries the weight of the world on their shoulders. In these new timelines, you are no longer carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. That is a burden that will be uncomfortable. The newness of it will feel like, I don't know what to do with myself. You are asked to trust this discomfort, because as you slowly move along in the next few months, you will find that you are much more comfortable. For somebody on here, the message is, what is comfortable for you is not because it's comfortable, it's because it's all you know. And as you move through the discomfort of relinquishing those burdens, releasing the weight of the world, perhaps it's self-sacrifice, perhaps it's needing to do everything for everyone. Perhaps it's a certain paradigm that you have based on a wound or experiences you've had on this earth plane. Regardless of what it is, there is discomfort when you release and relinquish old views and beliefs, old ways of doing things, old ideas or concepts about yourself, and embodied states of being. We're now moving into a different state of embodiment. So for that person, whoever that is, who's been carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, as you relinquish that, you're going to feel a little bit uncomfortable, perhaps a moment of freedom, a moment of fear. It could look a different for everybody. She's very clear that she needs to share this with somebody. As you step into this new role and into this embodiment of your power without carrying the weight of the world around you or the weight of other people with you, Yes, it's new and yes, it's uncomfortable, but in time, very quickly, you will come to find that that is your most natural state and actually is much more comfortable than carrying the burdens of other people around with you. This is a significant message for a number of collective soul pods, and it needs to be delivered at this time while we're sitting in this holding pot or a holding pattern or this place of unknown timelines or this feeling like you need to do something, but you don't know what, or feeling like you need to end things for completions. We are being called to trust in this moment that sitting in the just a state of being, celebrating how far we've come. So let's go back to this message for whoever this is and unknown timelines. Because the timelines are unknown, says Dolores, it's because this has never been done before. There are things that we do not know how they're going to happen. It is not the same as the third dimensional planes where we understand the mapping systems. We're now moving into a new state of evolution that's never been done before. Therefore, there are multiple unknowns. It is only when we take a few steps forward, both as a six-dimensional being, creating your world, but also six-dimensional light beings are attending the collective consciousness as well as multiple other dimensions. Council of Nine is coming up for somebody on here as a confirmation and validation that you know that. But these are all rapidly expanding and weaving around us because this hasn't been done before in this way with so many people on an actual planet in this way. I don't necessarily, little Aaron doesn't know how to explain it based on other planets because I don't really have access to that information right now, or it's not part of this channel, they're saying, so it's not needed. Why share what's not needed? That's what they're saying. Got it. Thank you. But they're also making it, flowing it as, because it's not been done before, that means there is no timeline where we can say, yep, that's the trajectory of first dimension. Yep, that's the trajectory of this one. It now becomes unknown. We become players of the game in a very creative, conscious way from a state of empowerment. We take a few steps forward to what we believe the goal should be. And once we take two steps forward, suddenly three other timelines become possible. In sixth dimension, we get to actively say, okay, I'm here at this step. If I do it this way, here's the next few steps to get that outcome, next few steps to get this outcome, next few steps to get that outcome. That's what I mean. We won't see any of those outcomes or the steps that unfold if we don't take the first two steps required in order to unfold what the potential timelines can be. So that's how I'm being told to explain it for somebody on here. I'm being told to pull from a deck that I rarely ever use. It's the Akashic Tarot. And I feel like this is significant for somebody as the Akashic. I was told to get the Akashic Tarot for this specific reading. And the card I'm pulling is the King of Scrolls. This is not read as a regular tarot deck, but notice it's king, crown. I am the king of my kingdom. I am the ruler of my realm. It's this idea. And look at scrolls. We're taking all the past information, the old scrolls, all the historical information, all the experiences, and we're now going to begin to write another scroll. There's a side note message for somebody on here who's a masculine energy. You're going to be going back into your consciousness of either past lives, true history. You're going to be going back into it in order to understand where you want to go. See how he's pensive? That's a word I'm getting, pensive. Ding, ding, ding on my phone there for you. God, Bell, he's pensive. Notice there are gates here. Notice we have to understand where we've been in order to open the gate. This goes back to the thinking man is what I'm hearing, or the thinking energy, the person who's struggling to make a decision or has hesitation, doesn't quite have the mental clarity. I'm being told green fluorite for mental clarity for somebody on here, or whatever resonates for you that you're drawn to. There's this idea or concept or feeling of not having the mental clarity of where you want to go that you may not be used to. There's a masculine that's heavily thinking, heavily in their logic, but this is not the place that you're going to find the answer. Notice that in reading all these scrolls that are open, he's still pensive in thinking. It didn't necessarily provide him the answer that he wanted, but it has given him the information and experiences that he needs in order to consciously choose based on his own intuition and not by the opinions of others or what other people think they should and shouldn't do. In this way, they're moving from logic into the heart space and full trust. It's a trustful baby. That's a song playing. Who's that? Pink. Trustful. It's a trustful. Logic serves a purpose. I don't want to take away from that. Some people are learning to really hone their logic and utilize it. Other people are really learning to release that limitation or the binding of the logic that it's been for them and stepping into that co-creative state with spirit. So take this as it resonates, but can you scroll, pull one more? I'm hearing. Okay. One more for those. One more just to hit the message home is what I'm hearing. And this flew out. 5 is wishes fulfilled. Look at the harvest at the table. I want to remind you of the very first card that we pulled, which was, I'm hoping you can see that okay. Notice both of them are about harvest. Both of them are about fulfillment. I'm hearing for whoever this message is for. Notice this is card 5, which is the key, and 10 is the completion. 5 is halfway through. 5 is the number of change. There's a reason why it's keys and scrolls. What if you knew, back to the 6th dimensional, releasing attachment to outcomes? What if you knew that your wishes would be fulfilled no matter what in this fifth dimensional shift? And your focus and commitment to them is the reason it becomes fulfilled. For somebody on here, you already know that. And that's why you're in your mind thinking, what do I do with this? What do I do with this? Which way do I go? Because you already know the power of who you are. That's a side note for somebody on here. You already know that your wishes will be fulfilled no matter what. For others of you, you're just coming into, hold on, this is the key, 5th dimension. I am presence and power, co-creating with the divine. The divine has my back. I am an incarnation walking on the earth plane of divinity itself. Of course, my wishes are going to be fulfilled. Is there going to be some bumps in the road? Well, heck yes, that's how we empower you to get the wish you actually asked for. Side note. So there's this flow through of understanding your wishes will be fulfilled. Stop thinking so much or getting in your head or trying to use your logic to answer every question, and trust that the wish will be fulfilled. You simply need to take 2 steps onto it. We can't fulfill the wish or find a way to bring you the alignments to fulfill the wish if you don't actually take a step towards it. So there's that aspect as well. Whether you're pondering on the wishes or where you want to go, or whether you're like, I don't know what the outcome's going to be, having attachments, whatever it is, just know that there are lines for you. There are unknown timelines right now because of the shift that's happening in the collective. That is to be expected. That is also why we have amplified the amount of help that each individual has. Many of you will have noticed that your intuitive gifts have probably come off the charts, having information drop in, integrated, dreaming, psychic, visions, having, mediumship, there's channeling. All these things have probably just started to wide open for you. Being able to communicate with animals, the earth plane, Gaia, all these beautiful things, higher dimensional beings. That's because at this time in this shift, in the thick of it, there's a lot of unknowns, but you can trust that you will always be safe and you can take the first few steps. Use your logic and your heart working together. Hemi-sync is what I'm hearing in that synchronistic aspect, that flow. There are a lot of, I can't stress enough, there's a lot of unknowns that's happening right now. Dolores says it's also too because Gaia is shifting. And when she shifts and the frequency shifts, it's like we're getting pulled along with her shift. So the past or 3rd dimension or old earth is where we're consciously working on all these things. And we're the ones driving the shift. But right now, what's happening is we've shifted into a cosmic shift or Gaia shifting rapidly with massive changes. And we're actually now acclimating to her shift. So before, it's almost like we would make shifts internally that would affect the world externally, a large number of souls. But now we're shifting into the aspect of, okay, Gaia's shifting and we need to acclimate to that. So first it was us doing this, but now she's pulling us along. That's kind of the cosmic shift that I want to highlight at this time. And I feel like I highlighted that a few months ago through my email list or on the blog, that we were having a cosmic shift and we were having to align to her cosmic or frequency shifts at this time, which is part of the unsettledness. But Dolores says these are all intertwined. They're all part of the same story. They're all part of the same shift. And in anything, right, we have the micro and we have the macro. The macro shifts the micro, but so too does the micro shift the macro. It's both. And sometimes the micro is the one with all the micro stuff that's making the macro turn. And other times the macro is turning, and all of us here in the micro have to turn and align and acclimate with that shift. I trust that this message resonated. If this whole holding pattern, the shift with Dolores, she was hot on me today of wanting to pop in here. And I am so grateful for the additional metaphors, explanations, and understandings that she brings to the table every single time. I'm wishing all of you, as always, much love, light, peace, healing, transcendence. And of course, if you want to join the waitlist for the Dimensions course that's about to be unveiled, please do find the link to my website in the video description box below, as well as the pinned comments. And I will see you all in the next video.